Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Get Dirty Garage, where today it's time to start making the frame a little bit structurally sound. It is really good shape, but remember way back when we did the mini tubbing in the bed, so now we got to narrow up that frame. So I got a kit from ABC Performance, and it's supposed to be for Chevelles and should fit on this. So but the GMA bodies, it narrows the frame by 1.5 inches on each side, so put some bigger tires under it. But anyways, we got a bunch of cleaning up to do, and I want to get this thing torn down and reinforced and put together. So we got a ton of stuff to do, and just a tick under 100 degrees in the shop today, so we'll sweat our way through this. But hey, let's go ahead and let's get dirty. Is this thing on? Yeah. Alright, so here's what we're working with. Frame is actually in really good shape. You can see it's actually still got the original 55-year-old air shock system on it, where the tubes and stuff come out. But we got a bunch of stuff to strip off of this. We got a bunch of old muffler riser hangers, and we got parking brake cables, we got brake lines, fuel lines, all that fun stuff. And then front suspension will obviously tear off here. So let's get started. These parking brakes are just like clips, so hopefully I can get those off without breaking them. Did already get the brake line loose from the flexible line there, but all these little attachment points for brake line and stuff, and then big things on the control arms, lower control arm mounts there, upper control arm up there, and then these cross braces and so on. Gotta knock those out, and then shocks hopefully will unbolt, and basically the shocks are what limits the travel in the A bodies. Because if you take the shocks out with the rear end just kind of hanging, they will the springs will basically come all the way out. So, but that's the plan. So let's go ahead and let's get after it and start stripping this thing down. So go from there. All right. Well, let's start hopefully with the easy stuff first. Get these brake lines off. I've been soaking all these fasteners for the last few days, because I spent 4 days basically cleaning up the bottom side of the Elco, fixing bad welds, and a couple of years worth of poor decisions. So, but spent a lot of time cleaning all that stuff up and trying to get it smooth enough so that we can finish the bottom, the floor pans and all that fun stuff. But there's a lot of different areas where we had modified, like putting those seats in and stuff that were pretty rough on the bottom. So a bunch of cleaning up there, and a couple of cross members that had some rust holes in them, and just put some sheet metal back in there. Got everything solidified. So as I said, I've been soaking this stuff with PB Blaster for quite a while, so hopefully most of it will come out without too much trouble. We'll see. I want to try and take these brake lines and fuel lines out and can in one step, and that way I can use them kind of as a pattern. They might be reusable, see, but so I got the clips and all that fun stuff. Use them as a pattern to route new ones if we need to bend them up and stuff like that. Probably should replace them. I mean, they are, I said, 50 some years old. Still got brake fluid in it. Alright. Clean up on aisle 5. Okay, let's see if we can get this fuel line out. These are just 1/2-inch head bolts that just basically tap right into the frame. So, get this stuff off. And then start working on this, I guess we gotta get the park brake cable off. Get that freed up, and then I think we can start knocking control arms and shocks and stuff like that out from underneath it. Some good varnish. Some more cleanup. Okay. Chance these hangers to come out of here? Probably not, but got a cutoff wheel for those. Don't really, not gonna reuse that stuff for sure, since they're already bustified. Alright, see if we can unloop these cables here. Probably going to have to modify this setup a little bit, because if you remember, I'm going to try and use the Elco's parking brake pedal, if you will, but then I'm gonna attach those to the parking brakes from the Camino, so probably got a little bit of futzing around to do with that. Little clips are the ditties that hold those parking brake cables, so pretty straightforward. And I'm sure we'll have to do something different for adapting the Camino parking brakes. Let's see, let me go get my airline tool for these air shocks. With this rear end kit, basically we're going to go with coilovers, so won't need any of this. tiny. Something about there, 5/16 looks like. Okay, so those are out. Let me get this clip off of here. Kind of like a brake line clip. It's gonna need a little persuasion. Alright, air shock delete kit. Let's see if we can get through these hangers. Okay, hanger delete. Alright, well I think we've got this stuff freed up enough where I support this rear end. See if we can get the shocks out. No weight at all on the back end of this thing, so and just in case, I'm going to try and contain those springs just because. Support them here with some vice grips, just because I don't want them to take off on me. I doubt that there's much tension left in these springs over the years, or spring spacers in them just to hold the back end of the car up. Yeah, I'm not liking that whole setup. I'm just gonna slice that spring. Still had some tension on her. Completely trashing the wheel. Alright, well I got both sides of the top of the shocks out, and let's lower this rear axle down a ways. Have to pull those upper control arms here, so let's see if we can't get some torque on those. This thing's going to want to twist really bad. Alright, gentle now. Okay, now I think all we gotta do is knock those lower control arms out. Okay, it should be loose. rear axle. Alright, well, we'll strip the front off here, and I think we're just about bare. Alright, got the front stripped off, just taking the control arms and the steering linkage off and steering box, so no big deal there. But if you only take one piece of advice in your life from me, so just don't ever take front springs off GMA body without some sort of spring compressor. I just made my own cheap, 15 bucks from, I think I got all the stuff from Tractor Supply, just a hook and some threaded rod, but just enough to take the tension off those springs. But let me clean up this mess, and then let's get started. Alright, so I got most of my mess cleaned up here. Let's go ahead and see what's in the box. Said this was from ABC Performance. They're out of Michigan. Great guys to deal with. And this kit is supposedly for a Chevelle GMA body. It's supposed to be able to work on that El Camino here, so heavy duty reinforcement. I mean, A bodies already have a 4-link suspension, which is good, basic. And this will get us more room to put some more traction underneath of it. So, gonna need that with the LS in it, I'm afraid. I think you can get up to like 345s or something underneath it. So. These are all laser cut, I think. Reinforcement plates. I think these are inner and outers. I know that they always recommend, if you're going to put some high horsepower into a Chevelle, that you box the frame. But on the El Camino, since it came with a frame from a station wagon, it's already boxed. So one step ahead. Okay, those are the new inner channels. Those are heavy. These I think are 3/16 inch thick plates for the outer, which is quite a bit thicker than the original frame. That's why this strengthens up a whole bunch. Little widget fillers. They do say that this will actually make that frame stronger than stock, even though you're narrowing it, because it's got inner and outer plates and doubles up on the C channels. Well packaged, I gotta say. So those are the outer plates. More reinforcements. And constructions. So, okay, I think we are good to go. This also has you put an additional cross member in there for the rear coilover mount. So, what these are. Series mounts. Okay. And a crossbar. So, okay, I think we got what we're after here. Let's let me spend some time with the instructions and see how this puzzle might go together. A little bit of rust on that stuff, so throw in the sandblaster and clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to take a few minutes with the instructions here, and then I'll figure out what we got to do next. Alright, so step number one in the constructions are to brace this up as we cut away stuff and add stuff. We don't want things to shift, so got a couple of angle iron that kind of triangulates this kick-up area. These are like 3 feet long, and then some flat stock across the back here. I'm just going to make a X out of it so you can make sure that none of this shifts and gets out of square. So let's tack these on real quick, get it all reinforced, go from there. Okay, well I think that should do it for the reinforcements. Let's pull these clamps off, start the other process. Okay, next step in the process are these little reinforcing plates, and they go up underneath these spring pockets up in that corner up in there, and clean that up, put a little bit of weld through primer on there, kind of on both sides of these, and then these will go up in here, and then you weld the front and the back. Kind of takes up and reinforces that where the frame is kind of narrow under there. So I'm going to tack those up in place, and then we will be able to go from there. Okay, so I got those all welded in on both sides, and at this point it's time to do layout of where we got to cut. So here's what's going on. You got to mark in 1 5/8 from the furthest outboard point. So what I ended up doing is just taking a square, make sure I was measuring from the furthest outboard point. Sometimes it's on the bottom, as you can see, sometimes it's on the top. So just and then mark that off and put some tape on it so I know where I'm cutting. And they send you templates for these corners. Basically, you cut this out, leave this flap essentially, and then once you put the structure plate, the outer plate, tack that in, then you bend this extra plate excuse me, this extra plate there to close off that gap. So I gave a template for the front, and then measurements from the body mount hole in the rear. Only messed that one up once, but that's alright. So I got that all marked out, top and bottom. Bottom gets really thin up in some of those areas, but with that extra plate that we put on the inside, and then the outer plate in 3/16, and then there's an inner C channel that puts it all, tightens it all together, and that makes a three layer basically instead of 2. So it should be actually stronger than what we started out. So that's our cut line. I guess it's time to get out the sparkly wheel of terror and make some noise. Okay, well, 4 grinding discs later, I think we got what we were after. It's like 2 layers in some of this stuff, and funky corners and everything else. So cut through this second layer here. Okay, I think we have our narrowing complete, so time to clean this mess up. Do a bunch of grinding around the edges here, and then yeah, we'll see if we can figure out how to make that plate fit in there. We got to clean this up, put some rust encapsulator or something, some primer in there, but we'll pick it up at that point. Alright, so I got that opening cleaned up and primed the inside, cleaned it all up, and primed the back side of this plate. And how you want this to fit is that plate should fit inside that channel that was cut just slightly. They say like a 1/16 of an inch, but just enough so it's inboard and even and straight up and down and all that fun stuff. So a bunch of grinding to the piece that went in there just to get it to fit with all the whoop-de-doos and things that are going on within that frame. But at this point we can tack this in place and get an inner frame rail back. So everything should be ready to go. Just got it clamped in there, and let's tack it together. Okay, so that's in place. Let me finish welding this up. I'm gonna do basically some couple-inch stitch welds. They don't have to be spot welds on something this thick, but want it good and in there, since this is support for everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this done, do a little bit of grinding, and we'll pick it up when we have to bend over those corners. So we'll take it from there. Okay, so we got this 3/16 plate all welded in, ground down pretty decent. I mean, this eventually has got to come off the spring perch anyway, so got some finishing to do there. But I think now it's time for a little persuasion on these little flappy dealies. Bend these corners in. Okay, let's touch these up with the grinderizer. Okay, now I think we can clean them up and get those welded up. And we can take a look at the finished outside product at that point. So let me do that. Let me do some stitching together, and we will go from there. Okay, well, here we are. We got that front blended in pretty good. Welded all the way in. Back folded and blended. So I think we are in pretty good shape. We have to rinse and repeat on the other side, but I don't know, maybe I'll do one side at a time. We'll see. But we will go from there. Okay, well, I was rereading the constructions and said to finish one side before you do the other side. So makes sense. I mean, get everything strengthened up and all that fun stuff. So next step is we gotta slice off this spring perch here. Basically it's welded along the back side, along the top, and it's just overlapped and welded on there, and then there's a couple of rivets up here we gotta destroy in order to get that out. So I went and got a big boy wheel for the sparkly wheel of terror here, and see if we can chop all the way through that. So and then once that's off, we got to grind everything out. Then that way we can put that inner channel over the top of all of this and kind of put it together. So anyways, that's kind of what the next steps are. So let's do that. By the way, I was reading on the interweb the other day that 70-some% of people admit to sleeping with their pets, let them get in bed with them, and that's just not for me. I tried it once and my goldfish died. Okay, well, let's get some work done. Okay, well, that was a bit of a struggle, but we got her out. So let me clean all this mess up, and then we can start fitting that inner panel. So we will go from there. Okay, as you can see, I got this all cleaned up and fresh coat of weld through primer on it. And just to give you an idea, I mean, this whole kit was designed by a guy named Tony, who was chassis engineer for GM for his career. And so like the frame in this area was really kind of thin anyways, but we've kept the original inner and then added a 3/16 outer in place of the 1/8 outer, and then added an additional 1/8-inch plate here. And then this inner plate actually encompasses all of that, and I'll slide over the top of that for another 1/8 inch. So up in this area we've got 4 structural pieces instead of 2, and then everywhere else it's 3 structured pieces. So let me get this inner clamped in place, and then we can stitch along the outside of that and be able to kind of button up that side of that frame rail. So next step. Alright, so we've got this all clamped in place, so it's time to melt these together. So enjoy. Okay, well there we go. I think we've got that to the point where everything is in. There's a couple of spots in the back here where there's some holes in it that I can plug weld, so I'm going to do that, clean up the rest of this, and then we will go from there. We got another piece to put in on the inside there, and then a fish plate down here. So almost there on this side. Looking good. Alright, so that inner and outer are together and cleaned up, and the plug welds in the back, so I think everything's good there. Next piece to this puzzle goes down here on this inside. Cleaned it up and primered it and did the best I could up in that corner. It's still a little dirty. Some have some dirty welds, I'm afraid, but this piece goes up in here and basically just reinforces that whole section, so holding along the back and then top and bottom. So let me put that in place and stitch it on, and then we will go to the next. Alright, well after a whole bunch of chasing dirty welds around and so on, that piece is in and ground down, so kind of evens up that whole thickness in that area. So looks pretty decent, and I think now we can go ahead and try and put this fish plate on this corner here, so that'll be next. Okay, so I got this fish plate welded in. Basically, it's just an angle. It's got 4 spots to weld through it for plug welds. And anybody know why they call it a fish plate? If you know, just shoot me a message or leave me a comment or something. I don't know. It doesn't look like a fish to me, but anyways, it's in. So we'll do some grinding. And then I think the very last thing that we got to do is put a gusset on this corner here for this side. So anyways, we're making progress. Let me get some grinding done on this baby, and then we'll pick it up and put that gusset on. So we'll go from there. Okay, so I got the fish plate in, everything ground smooth, and you don't have to, but like in the back here, I extended those welds, kind of did a stitch, a bunch of stitch welds going that way so I could blend that in. Looks a little more finished and doesn't look as fishy, I guess. I don't know. So anyways, last piece on this side are these gusset ditty things that kind of go in there-ish, something like that. So anyways, I got some cleaning up to do on that cross member there, and then we'll see if we can't get some stuff in place and get this one tacked in there. So that's next. Okay, get that cross member cleaned up. Let me just know a real good way to clamp that, so try and find the sweet spot there and just tack it in. Yeah, get the rest of this zapped in there, and then I think we should be complete with this side. So we'll check back in then. Okay, so our gusset is in, and since that's on the top side, going to be up by the body, I think I'm not even going to bother grinding that one. It's not a bad looking weld, but I think it's plenty strong. So that's in. Our fishy plate is in. We've got all of our inners and outers and angles and dangles and supports and all that fun stuff. So that is a complete side. So we're halfway done. Oh man. Anyways, that gets us 1.5 inches more clearance for more tire, and also gets us a whole bunch stronger on the frame area. And eventually, when we do get both sides done and kind of the inners and outers all in there, then we gotta put a cross member in there to hold the coilovers. So that is basically start to finish on the ABC Performance frame narrowing and mini tub kit, but worked out well, and the Chevelle does fit the El Camino, or grind to fit, close enough. So let's rinse and repeat on the other side and go from there. Okay, so we got both sides in now. Everything seems to be strong and square, and I think we're in good shape. So the last piece to the puzzle is this crossbar here, where the coilovers are going to mount. So it goes 11.25 inches back, and these go on here at an 8-degree angle. So I got my angle dangleometer out and marked 8 degrees down. So let's go ahead and get those tacked in place, and then we can fit that crossbar across the back. So that's next. Okay, with those in, now we can play with our crossbar here. And they did say in the instructions that this was definitely going to be a grind to fit or cut to fit. It's pretty close though. So let me do a little bit of grinding and fitment. I'm going to bevel these edges, and then we can get that locked in place. So that'll be next. Okay, got that bar in there with just a snug fit. Just trying to get everything centered up. And beveled the edges so I can get weld down in there nice and deep. So let's go ahead and get this bar in here. Alright, well I think we are complete at this point. Let me cut some of the rest of the braces off and clean this mess up, and we'll take a look. So I think we are all together. I think it looks good. We definitely got room for more meat on the tires. Reinforced, I mean, we've gone from 2 1/8-inch plates. This whole section now has at least 2 1/8-inch plates plus a 3/16, and then up here an additional 1/8-inch plate, and then reinforced in this area, fish thing down there. And in the kit, they also send these heavy-duty axle brackets that you can weld to the axle once that's in place for the bottom of the coilovers. So we'll figure that out when we get an axle, I guess. But no, I like the way it came out. Honestly, that ABC kit is really well designed, well engineered, pretty easy to put in with some mediocre self-taught welding skills and some basic tools. So I'd give it a thumbs up or two at least. So I think we are in good shape there. So I think that's going to do it for this edition of Let's Get Dirty Garage. It took me about a day per side. Yeah, I work pretty slow, but a day's worth of work. A few more days than that because I'm old and I sweat. So, but anyways, hey, listen, if let me know what you think. Leave me a comment down below if you've ever put one of these on or tried to do something similar. Let me know how that came out. But I think we're good. So yeah, if you haven't yet, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, please. And I'm not above begging. I can do that. But anyways, I appreciate you guys so much. Love the interaction. The community's open. Throw a post up in there on something that you're doing. So that'll be fun to kind of interact. And thanks a bunch for getting dirty with me today. We'll see you next time. Take care.